Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Well, hello and good morning. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. I am so excited to have you listening today. I have an amazing episode for you guys. Can't wait to dig into it. But first, I just want to welcome any newbies. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you're a returning listener, you know I am so appreciative. I love that you come back. I love that you tell your friends. I love that you leave reviews. I just love it. And you guys, you all sharing the podcast, tagging it on your story, sharing it on social media, leaving Google reviews, sharing it with friends and family. All of that also helps me keep ads out of the podcast because a lot of the way that my business is built is through this podcast. People become listeners and they're either listeners for a few episodes before they become a client, or sometimes they're a listener for a really long time and they become a client. But the point of the matter is this is a huge way that I grow my business. So when you're sharing it and you're telling people about it and you're tagging me in episodes that really hit home and that you love, you're sharing it on your story so other eyeballs can see it, or you're communicating with people that you love it and sharing it with them, it's all helpful. So I just want to ask that you keep doing that. I've really tried since starting the podcast not to resort to any kind of ads. But at the flip side, I know that there's a lot of opportunity I'm missing by not putting a bunch of ads in my podcast. So I just ask that you continue to share it, to post about it, to tag me, to just keep doing that, because it truly helps more than you will ever probably understand unless you're a business owner yourself. That word of mouth is so powerful, and I appreciate it so much. One quick thing that I also want to say is that this month in February, I have $500 off every single offer that I do. So one-on-one coaching, the Equip Society, the hybrid experience, and also the St. George, Utah Women's Retreat that is coming up in just about 2.5 weeks on February 26th through March 2nd. So if you've been interested in any of my programs, February is a great time to get yourself enrolled because you can save money. I don't do that often, especially on all of my offers, but I have a special code for each offer. So if it's something that you're interested in, make sure that you email me at coaching@macyrenee.com or get in touch with me on social media so that I can make sure to provide the correct discount code so you can save $500 this month on any offer that I have that you may be interested in. The only one that you need to be aware of where there is a process is the hybrid experience. I do require that applications be filled out. You have to get an acceptance letter within 48 hours to be able to enroll in that program. But if it's something that you've been thinking about, now is a great month to go ahead and send in an application, because if you get approved, you can use the $500 coupon. Okay. If you previously applied in November when I did pre-enrollment, but you did not actually go through with your application, you will need to apply again as the application has been updated. So if you're on my email list, you're getting ready to be seeing a lot more of the hybrid experience emails because enrollment is officially going to be reopening very, very soon for that in order to fill up this next round starting April 8th. And so I'm really, really excited. But if there's any offer you've been wanting to do, again, one-on-one coaching, Equip Society, the Utah retreat coming up in 2 weeks, or the hybrid experience, this is a perfect month to inquire because you can save $500. All right, now let's get on to today's juicy topic. I cannot wait to talk to you about this. I did an episode kind of similar a while back, but I think it's time to talk about this in a similar yet different way because it comes up often for my clients, even for myself. And in order to actually build the skills to get really good at how to solve for what I'm going to be talking about, you have to know what's going on within yourself. So I'm going to bring awareness to 3 things today: anxiety, hypervigilance, and intuition. So let's talk about this because I think sometimes we get confused between these 3 things and we may ask ourselves, like, am I having anxiety? Am I just super hypervigilant? Or is this my intuition? So what I wanted to talk about today are how these 3 experiences overlap, how they're different, and honestly, how to navigate them in a way that feels empowering rather than overwhelming. So let's talk about one of the major ones that comes up for a lot of us, and I think pretty often before we get a handle of how our mind works and understanding our emotions and how it impacts our body. Let's talk about anxiousness, because I feel like a lot of the women that I work with, myself included, and a lot of what I work through in therapy and coaching was anxiousness. So here's the traits of anxiousness that you have to really be mindful of. When you're anxious, it's often future-oriented fear or worry, okay? Meaning that you anticipate things happening. So even if they haven't happened, you anticipate some sort of discomfort or emotions that you don't want to have to feel. So because of that, you feel fear around it, you feel worry around it, and you get that anxiousness for something that hasn't happened. So it's future oriented a lot of times whenever you're anxious. And it's often based on, what if this happens? What if that happens? And a bunch of worst case scenarios. Now, here's the thing, anxiousness can come from a multitude of things, and we're going to kind of talk about this. I'm not so much talking about it from, like, if you have a chemical imbalance. I'm talking about like a general. And oftentimes I know that anxiety can be a chemical imbalance, but I mean, like, a lot of times mild anxieties are coming from maybe past experiences or emotions we don't know how to handle well within our body because nobody taught us emotional intelligence skills in school. And so if we are not familiar with how to manage the wide range of emotions that's possible for us to feel as humans, which are thousands of different emotions, we don't always even know the names, how to put names to them and what we're feeling in our body. If we don't know or have awareness around that, then oftentimes anxiousness is going to feel like a very bad thing, and it will feel much more problematic than it is when it's a mild anxiety and not so much like a chemical imbalance that you need medication for. Anxiety often feels uncomfortable as well because it comes with physical symptoms. So you might have a racing heart, you might have a tight chest, you might find yourself overthinking, being sweaty, being nauseous, maybe even getting the cold sweats. There's a lot of physical symptoms that will often come with anxiousness. My best friend and I always joke, but it's funny, not funny. It's like one of those things you have to laugh about, but usually you can tell whenever we're anxious because we get the shakes. And so we'll just kind of like poke fun at our anxieties because we'll say, like, I'm shaking like a dog in the corner because I'm so anxious and I can't get my body to calm down. And it takes, the tools and the coping mechanisms to get our bodies regulated. But my natural kind of source of anxiety a lot of times will be a heart racing, very overwhelming feeling, and I will often get the shakes. And it's not even like shakes necessarily on the outside. On the outside, I can look totally calm, but on the inside, I'm shaking like a chihuahua. So that's what we joke about because she's often the same way. And it's not a fun feeling, right? Whenever we're feeling that anxiousness, we just want it to go away. We want those sensations in our body to go away. We want to feel like we can handle things and not have to have it be this full-blown production. every time we feel anxiety over something. But this is a big thing for a lot of people, no matter what it is. It could be that you have a presentation coming up and you hate public speaking. It could be that you're maybe in a wonky relationship and you need to have hard conversations about things. Like, people get anxieties from a multitude of things. And again, it's often future oriented fear or worry. So really, our brain goes, I don't want to feel XYZ way, and I'm afraid that I will, or I don't want this situation to go XYZ way, and I'm afraid that I will, and I want to feel like I'm in control. And so to feel like I'm in control, I'm overthinking about it, and then that creates all these bodily sensations, and now what I'm experiencing is full-blown anxiety. So anxiousness or anxiety in general tends to be rooted in a lack of safety and trust in oneself or the environment. Again, I've been working with women for 7 years. Prior to, if you're new here, prior to becoming a coach, I worked with a therapist throughout most of my life for 17 years. And then I took a year off of any kind of therapy. And then that's when I met my coach and began coaching for years and years up until this point. And so the whole thing that I've recognized within myself is that the more skills and tools that I get in my emotional toolbox, so my emotional intelligence, as it has grown and evolved and gotten better and better, I trust myself more, and I'm able to create nervous system safety within myself. I'm able to regulate much faster. And so it doesn't mean that anxiousness or anxiety is absent 24/7, but it means when it does come up, I am able to handle it without falling apart. Will I be shaking like a chihuahua inside of myself? Yes. More than likely, yes. But it doesn't actually keep me from doing things. It doesn't make me, say no to opportunities or like control my life. It feels terrible, but I also know that I have the tools and skills to face it. And that's the biggest thing that I've watched change in the women that I've worked with the last 7 years. Like, there are several of them that came to me, we'll just call them like a ball of anxiety, lots of panic around certain things, feeling out of control, wanting a lot of control, maybe even on medicine. And with their provider, right, they've been able to lessen their medicine. They've been able to go off their medicine, again, under the direction of their doctor or their therapist or whatever, because once they have the skills in their toolbox, they are able to self-regulate. So anxiousness is one of those things that can really feel like it has this huge chokehold on us. But the more that you develop and understand your mind-body connection, and you have tools and coping skills that are healthy, when that anxiety comes up, you're going to be able to work through it so much better, much more quickly, with much more calm. But again, a part of the human experience is that even as much work as you can do, okay, no matter how much therapy or coaching work you do, you cannot escape the human experience of having emotions. Coaching is not about becoming numb to your emotions. It is not about never feeling emotions ever again. In fact, the actual art of coaching is I can feel any feeling in my body and know that I'm going to be okay. It does not control my life or my decisions, and I get to live a very full, fulfilling life, creating everything I ever wanted, because there is not an emotion that I am unwilling to feel or that I am unable to handle well, okay? So the emotions are always going to be there. That's something that you have to really know, is that emotions are always going to come up because you're a human and you want those emotions. That's what helps us feel empathetic. That's what helps us with our interpersonal connections. The key is you want to be emotionally intelligent around those emotions. And there are thousands of emotions that we are able to feel as human beings. Many of them we don't even know the words for. Like, we might be able to name sensations and whatnot, but not know the emotion that we're feeling. And even expanding that vocabulary and learning the range of emotions as an adult, as a human being, can really help with the coping skills as well. So If you feel anxiousness, it's often because you are anticipating something you don't want to experience, because you don't want to feel the feelings, because you haven't developed the emotional intelligence skills to be with that emotion in your body and be able to feel like you can manage it. That's oftentimes where anxiety stems from. All right, let's move on to hypervigilance. I would definitely say that I am hypervigilant, and we're going to talk about why this happens. You may feel this too. So, hypervigilance is a heightened state of alertness and a scanning for danger. And this often occurs because or develops because of trauma and chronic stress or environments where our safety was not guaranteed. So, if you grew up in, maybe you had a childhood or a home life that had a lot of trauma associated with it, or you had to grow up faster than you wanted to, or you saw a lot, you witnessed a lot, you experienced a lot, that often creates a level of hypervigilance. So this will most often come up for clients whenever maybe they grew up in a home of screaming parents, and the parents were screaming because the parents didn't have emotional intelligence skills where they could regulate their emotions. So in order to get their point across, or to make things happen, or to express their frustrations, they yelled. And what that would often create in a child is this hypervigilance to be very careful about what you do and how you behave and choices you make and who you are as a human being in that household, as to not upset the parent or the caregiver that may lose their mind if you don't do everything, quote unquote, just right. Okay, so same thing if you had an alcoholic parent, right? The parent is maybe decent, they start drinking, and it's okay for a little bit, but as soon as they are drunk, you don't know what their behavior is going to be. And so this may have created a hypervigilance in you where you are very in tune, maybe now as an adult, when people are drinking, how much they're drinking, their mood changes as they're drinking, right? Because there was a level of maybe unsafety you experienced in childhood around not knowing their mood. Again, not knowing what was going to happen. Are they going to hurt me? Are they going to scream at me? Are they going to become physical with myself, with siblings, with, another parent or someone else in the home? And so again, if you're hypervigilant, if you feel like you can kind of sense when things in an environment are changing or tones are changing, and you start to get that anxiousness from it, it's often because of any kind of trauma, chronic stress, or environments where you just didn't feel safe. And it often will look like over analyzing people's moods, because again, that hypervigilance is like, am I going to be safe? Like if I start seeing someone becoming increasingly upset or angry, am I going to be safe? Okay. We expect things often to go wrong. So if you're someone that often says things like, I'm just always waiting for the other shoe to drop, that is a perfect example of, the hypervigilance kind of coming on and being present. And often if you have difficulty relaxing, because again, your brain is focused on where's the danger, because if it focuses on the danger, then it can get you out of a dangerous situation. So if you felt this a lot of times as a child, then as an adult, you're probably walking around pretty hypervigilant, okay? Now, here is the thing, because we're going to be talking next about intuition. And I think a lot of times there is confusion around hypervigilance. Like, am I hypervigilant or am I intuitive? And I know for me, I am both. And I think that they play into each other. And we're going to talk about intuition, and then I'll merge it together. But my childhood was definitely not easy or normal or anything that anybody should have experienced. And I work with a lot of clients who have similar maybe backgrounds and stories. And so I know I'm very hypervigilant. Signs of that is often if I see someone who can't emotionally regulate, who does not have emotional intelligence, my gut reaction a lot of times is I don't even want to be around them, because I don't feel like they're a safe person to be around. And oftentimes if I recognize that someone's mood is elevating, what I will want to do is go in overdrive to fix or solve the problem that's making them upset. Like basically what I will do is take on responsibility for whatever I can control in hopes that it will lessen their emotional explosion. And this is what I see a lot of my clients do, right? Where they take a lot of responsibility for other people's emotional reactions. They try to control, they try to change their environmental circumstances, they try to calm a situation down. And oftentimes, what it leads is to a lot of chronic stress and burnout, and maybe even feeling like you're physically ill because it's hard enough, you guys, controlling our own emotions. Like emotional intelligence work is hard enough on an individual level. When you start trying to do it for other people whose emotions you cannot control, but it feels like it, right? It feels like it if you're able to create a distraction or you're able to kind of like talk them off a cliff. It can often feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much control over this. I'm now responsible for making sure they're okay. I want to tell you, you are not responsible for other people's emotional reactions. That is on them. Okay. What actually has to happen in your work is how you regulate your nervous system whenever those situations are happening around you. It's about your boundaries. It's about not people pleasing. It's about regulating your nervous system. It's about choosing the environments you want to be in and the people you want to be around. And it's a whole process, right? But this is something that you really have to be mindful of if you grew up in any kind of shaky environment where safety was on the line, where you felt like at different times in your childhood, even if it wasn't all the time, if it was, I have to survive and I have to be very careful. I can't do this. I can't be this person. I have to suppress my emotions. Like it can even be the sense of like something that my sisters and I were always taught growing up is if we got upset about something and we started crying, and our caregivers eventually got to the point where they were tired of hearing us cry because, again, they could not regulate their own emotions when we were emotional. So what happened was they would often have a threat in order to get us to stop, which would be, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about, which would be, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to spank you. Or I'm going to pull you into the room and I'm going to make you sorry that you keep crying. So oftentimes what this created, in addition to any other traumas, right, is that I suppressed a lot of my emotion. And I became very hyper-vigilant of when other people had rising emotions because I thought, it's not safe to feel this. It's not safe to express this. And I'm going to have to try to level out the mood of the room. And the only way I know to level out the mood of the room is to also push down my emotions as far as they will go so that I'm not activated, so I'm not activating anybody else. This is a whole entire cycle that has taken several years to heal from, and something that I even have to observe within myself. So whenever I see someone getting very emotionally activated, there is a piece of emotional intelligence work that I have to do to regulate my nervous system, not make their mood mean anything about me or the situation. Let them have their experience while maintaining what I want my experience to be. And this is key in emotional intelligence work and something I help my clients with a lot. Okay, now let's talk about intuition, because I also feel like although I'm very hypervigilant, I am very intuitive and have been most of my life. Now, a lot of that is probably from having to be hypervigilant, but I'm going to share with you the main difference of how to know when it's your intuition, which is very much a gift and something that the more we heal, I think the more our intuition speaks to us. I think when people say I'm not intuitive or I don't really know how to read the room, it's oftentimes because maybe they could have the blessing of never having had to be hypervigilant about anything. But two, I think it's also a lot of times the more emotions you're familiar with feeling, the more you can recognize the signs of your body and be able to tap into things. So let's talk about what intuition is. So intuition is a grounded, clear, and often subtle knowing. It's very much a gut response of I just know. I can't explain it. There are really no words for it. It's almost like this inner voice, whether you really truly hear an inner voice or just this inner knowing. So I feel like a lot of times whenever parents become parents, they are much more intuitive. It's like you can have a gut feeling that something's off with your child or they're into something, right? It's that whole eyes in the back of my head kind of thing. There's just this inner knowing. And it doesn't come, this is the most important thing, it doesn't come with panic or urgency, but it's more of a gut feeling or a deep inner sense. I even think sometimes it can be like a peace, like an inner peace of I just know. Again, I don't have the words from it. It's not a panicky situation. It's not me overthinking. It's not coming from, my past experiences. It's nothing that really makes sense other than I can just feel it. I know it. And again, not based on trauma, like past experiences or even future fears, but it's a very like present based moment, like momentary awareness within yourself. So you're not looking far into the future. You're not, thinking back on the past. It's like in this moment right now, this is what I know. And it will feel calm even when it's a warning of something. So maybe you get the urge to say, you know what, we shouldn't go out and walk today, or we shouldn't go to that store today, or, let me stay in my car for just 5 extra minutes. Like, it's not something that often has your heart racing and worrying and overthinking everything. It's very much just like this little quiet voice or knowing where it's just like, this is just what I feel like I've been told to do. It feels so outside of me. It feels like maybe it came from something greater than me, like a little whisper, whether again you hear something or not, but it's almost like I just need to listen and trust it. And oftentimes we will always say, I should have listened to my gut. If we don't, right? I should have listened to my intuition. I should have listened to my gut because it knew. Okay. And oftentimes I think the reason we go against our gut is because, again, if we are not in tune with our bodies, with our emotions, and we're big overthinkers and we're very anxious and we haven't learned the emotional intelligence skills to really like settle into our body and be calm, then it's really hard to actually tap into our intuitiveness, which I think is innately a gift that everybody has if they get quiet enough and still enough. But in order to get quiet enough and still enough, you have to be okay with emotions in your body. You have to be able to hold the really great emotions and the really low ones that feel yucky and icky. So here's the big thing and how all of these overlap, okay? Anxiety and hypervigilance can feel like intuition, but keep in mind that anxiety and hypervigilance will carry tension, fear, and urgency. And that true intuition is not fear-based. It's neutral and it's direct. It's a very much matter of fact. So if your thoughts spiral into convincing yourself of danger, it's likely anxiety or hypervigilance. Like if you're in a situation and you are overthinking and your brain is trying to convince you of something, then many times it's going to be anxiety or hypervigilance. But if it's quick and it's clear and it's just like a knowing that you feel, you don't need to debate it. It's just matter of fact. That's likely intuition. Okay. So let's talk about some EQ skills that I help clients develop in order to get a handle on all three of these things. The first skill is self-awareness. Okay. In order to work on any of these things and get really good at knowing the difference, you have to have self-awareness. You have to be able to recognize how your body and mind respond to stress. Like you have to be able to ask yourself the questions, is this coming from fear or past experiences, or is this a genuine gut feeling that I'm having? The more emotions you're able to name and the more you're able to understand your triggers, the more you'll be able to differentiate between real intuition and anxiousness, okay? One of the second skills is self-regulation. So anxiety and hypervigilance thrive in a dysregulated body, okay? Intuition thrives in calmness. Anytime I've had an intuitive sense, I'm very calm. I don't feel any anxiousness about any of it. I'm like, it's just matter of fact. I just know I don't need to go to the store today. I'm not freaking out. I'm not panicking about it. I'm very calm. Whereas whenever it's anxiety or hypervigilance for me, it's like I cannot turn my brain off and I start to worry and then I start to feel all the sensations in my body and it doesn't feel good. And I can't really explain it, but intuition is not like that at all. It's just like a very flat line of I just know. I just know and I need to listen to it. So being able to self-regulate is huge, okay? Another skill that I work with my clients on that is, tested whenever they do their EQ assessment is called reality testing. And this is our ability to look at things objectively, so in a very neutral sense. And the thing about anxiety and hypervigilance is that they will often distort reality, okay? So meaning that you'll have a lot of thoughts, maybe a lot of opinions. It's very hard to remain neutral. Whereas when it is actual intuition, everything just feels very neutral. Like you're not having a lot of thoughts one way or the other. It's just matter of fact and right in the middle. It's very neutral of just this is how I feel and I just know to do this thing or not do this thing. And then lastly, a huge skill just in general is building more trust in yourself. So anxiety can really put us in a place where we doubt ourselves, and intuition is really, it thrives on inner trust. So the more intuitive you are, oftentimes it's because you have built a lot of trust within yourself, meaning that you know yourself well, you know how your emotions work, you know your triggers, you know how your mind works, you're able to catch your thoughts. If you are walking around like a ball of anxiety a lot of times, it's probably because you maybe lack some confidence. You doubt yourself a lot. You've maybe had a lot of past experiences that haven't felt so good to you, and you're using those to create your future without even realizing it. You are on autopilot a lot. You function, in this kind of like almost day-to-day survival. That's what I noticed from a lot of people that are anxious, and that's how I used to function as well. So think about, how can I build more trust in myself? What skills do I need to develop in order to do that? Because the overall goal, you guys, is that we want you to feel empowered instead of overwhelmed. So that is what I want for every single one of my clients. I want you to feel empowered instead of overwhelmed. And the thing about it is a lot of times there's a negative association with anxiety, hypervigilance, or even intuition that you are too sensitive or too much because you have a heightened state of awareness. And I want to let you know that these things can really be a gift as long as we're not allowing them to rule and take over our life. It's so interesting. And I think I've shared this on the podcast, years and years ago. I wouldn't even know where to find it. But I remember like reading books years ago around anxiety and watching a lot of like different documentaries and TED Talks and learning that anxiety in a lot of other countries is not considered this bad thing that needs a pill or to be fixed like it does in the United States. And that actually, if you go to other countries and you approach anybody like in a village or, like just maybe more like tribal communities and you say like, I have anxiety, they consider it like a gift. They literally consider it your intuitiveness that you've just not been able to get a handle on and use for good. So it's kind of like the anxiousness is a sign that if you use it correctly and we get your emotions under control and we get you to really know and trust yourself, that anxiety can essentially turn into amazing intuition, but it takes nurturing. And it's so interesting that in the United States, it's treated so differently. It's like, this is a problem and you need to take something for this problem. Now, again, when someone has a real chemical imbalance, yes, they may need to take something because we want them to be able to function and live a beautiful day-to-day life where their anxiety is not ruling every single decision or keeping them in bed. But what I mean is like those day-to-day anxieties, like you have to give a speech, you should not feel like you're going to die, and in those moments, like the skill set to develop a skill set where you can feel safe in your body and regulate so that you don't lose out or miss out on all the beautiful opportunities that life has to give. That's very different. So when someone's like, I'm feeling just anxious over all of these things, I just find it really interesting how different it's treated in the United States versus in many other countries where they're like, oh, this is a gift that we just need to harness and prepare you better with the skills in order to do that. Okay. So ultimately, navigating these different states with EQ will help you tremendously. It will help you feel more clear and more confident and empowered instead of constantly feeling stuck in fear or autopilot survival kind of pattern. So if I can help you at all, you know where to find me. Just visit MacyRenee.com. You can schedule a free consult on there in case you don't know what kind of coaching you need, if you need group or if you need one-on-one or what might be the best fit for you. So I would just highly encourage a visit to MacyRenee.com. You can find me on Google as well and read a bunch of Google reviews between the podcast and clients. And if you've been a client and you've never left a Google review, I would love if you do that because people really do like to see and hear true life, true lived experiences from real people. So if you've never left a Google review, but you've been a client or you're still a client, please go do that because again, I'm someone that loves reviews. I love getting on Amazon. Like before I buy any product or even consider a product, I'm reading real life reviews. I want to know, like, has this person worked with this person or has someone used this product before? And it's a huge piece. So definitely check out Google reviews because there are clients who have left me, reviews on there. You can check out social media, but get in touch with me if you need anything at all. This is the work that I love. I love helping my clients develop their emotional intelligence skills and grow. And so we will talk. We'll see if we're a good fit for each other, if we're vibing and everything, and if it feels like a good fit and what maybe might be the best position to put you in as far as coaching to help you get where you want to go and to achieve the goals that you have for yourself. So if I could be of any help, let me know. And remember, through the end of February, you can save $500 on any of my offers, including the St. George retreat that's coming up. And keep your eye out on social media and emails because the hybrid experience enrollment for round 4, which will start April 8th, and then the retreat will take place in Breckenridge, Colorado. I'm so excited. I've been in the planning stages of that. Make sure that you apply. You have to apply. Even if you applied back in November, if you didn't officially enroll and start your payments, then you need to reapply on the website to be considered for the round, okay? Even if you got an approval letter, it's a brand new application, so just make sure that you either apply for the very first time if you're interested in that program or that you reapply if you did not enroll during pre-enrollment back in November, okay? You'll get a response within 48 hours of applying. Any, coupon codes or anything that's necessary will be in that invitation for you to use, as well as deadlines and dates. So just make sure you get your applications in as soon as possible. Okay? All right. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at MacyRenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at MacyRenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.